Good afternoon, everyone. And as you know, my name is Enzi Sewa, and welcome to this session of Spiritual Infinity. And my guest today is Halle Evelyn. And Halle is a transformational wealth.
Hold on. Hold on. Halle rhymes with Sally. Halle
Okay,
like
so
berry.
I keep on getting this wrong. It's Halle. Yes?
There you go. Perfect. You said
Halle
it beautifully.
Evelyn.
And with your accent, oh my goodness.
Where's Americans with an English accent? As a
We
transformational wealth
have it. We love it. Yes.
and speaker and retreat leader who helps women clear their old patterns and beliefs so that they can call in the financial power that brings freedom. But she's going to speak more on that. And where are you speaking from, actually? You know, I'm in London. Which part of the world are you speaking?
I'm in Miami.
Oh, shush. It's nice and warm, isn't it? It's hot. I say it's warm. It's hot, isn't it?
Today we're having a very cool day. It's 71. I think that's about 25 or 24 or something that you would just love. Yes.
I think here it's like 13 at best, probably 11. So that's why I say, oh, shush. Take it away. Okay, we're here to hear about your spiritual journey, what happened in your life way back that brought you to where you are today, what you went through and how you overcame those difficulties, how you connected to that spiritual awakening that took place within.
Yeah, well, it's, the story of my life, like spirit is the story of my life. So I started, unbeknownst to me, I started my journey into spirituality back on my 10th birthday. I came to my father on my 10th birthday. I'd been sitting outside and I had this idea, I'm going to grow up now. I can feel myself growing up. That means I won't always be a child. That means I'll be a grown up.
Yes.
Then that means I'm going to get older. Well, then that means I'm going to die. What happens after that? So I go to my father on my 10th birthday and I say to him, Daddy, where do you go when you die? And he says to me, I don't want to lie to you the way that my parents lied to me. You go in the ground and the worms eat you.
Oh my.
I'm quoting, by the way, quoting. Okay. So parents, here's a hint. Lie to your children if they come to you at that age. Tell them lies about rainbows and unicorns and forever rolling fields or something, but don't tell them what you believe is your truth if that is your truth. So I started having panic attacks at 10 years old. And I was always terrified of death. I would wake up in the middle of the night. In those days, we didn't have all the electronics in our room. You couldn't go to your Alexa, please turn on the lights. And I didn't know what to do. I would wake up and I would just be in terror because it would be pitch black and I would think, I'm not going to be me anymore. Oh, my heart. I think about that girl and later that woman, and I just want to hold her and tell her, honey, it's all going to be okay. I didn't know that. So I had these panic attacks for 25 years. And then I went to Egypt for the first time. And when I went to Egypt for the first time, God, spirit, the universe, call it what you like. I tend to call it spirit, hit me upside the head in the middle of the trip and told me that I had a soul and I would never die. And I got that message on my cells. So in one breath, I went from being an atheist into being me. Like I always say, it's like a BE and AE, before Egypt and after Egypt. BS and AS, before spirit, after spirit. Before spirit, it was all BS, and after spirit, it was all beautiful and light. So it was the most powerful moment. When people say, what's the most powerful moment in your life? That was the most powerful moment in my life. And after that, I started on this really powerful path of spiritual growth. And I spent a lot of time studying. I was studying every modality. I wanted to understand everything. Like, I'm one of those people, like, if I get onto a topic, I'm down the rabbit hole and I'm sucking all the information up like a sponge, and I come out on the other side a total expert in it. That's like how I like to roll. Well, that was how I liked to roll. And so I was learning all the time. And I found, for the first time in my life, I found a spiritual center, a place in LA called Agape, where one of the teachers was, the minister was one of the teachers in The Secret movie. And I got to sing in their choir for 10 years, which was I swear to God, a Black gospel choir. And then some of the people were white, but it was a Black gospel choir, and it was 250 voices plus. And it was this joy because you got to sing about spirit, and you got to sing about, like, the spirit moving through you. And I was like, I get this. I was always a seeker, and I was always discerning, and my BS meter was always like on, set to stun. So I was learning about different modalities, and eventually I got into everything, channeling and aliens and different races and all the history of the, Lemuria and Atlantis and all this crazy stuff. But again, my thing has always been discernment. Like, that's my watchword. So Spirit calls me the Awakener, which is why it's so beautiful that I get to be on the show with you, where you're like talking about awakening, right? But I get to be the awakener for people, and all of the things that I've done led to my starting to help people. I would pull my tools out of my toolbox, and I would be like, hey, let me help you. And then eventually that led to my coaching work, and now I've been coaching for 12 years. So it's been this complete arc. In the middle of it, I wrote a spiritual travel memoir called Red Goddess Rising, which is about my spiritual awakening and the trips that I've been leading up the Nile ever since. I'm going in February. It'll be my 33rd tour to Egypt. Okay. And I've done Bali 15 times and all these other places. And getting to help people wake up is like such a huge gift. And I think we're all getting there at this moment. So obviously I could talk about all of this stuff for forever. I'm going to be quiet for a minute because I just get so excited about everything. It's just
no,
time to be alive.
No, I don't want you to be quiet, because I want you to talk about it, because there are many people out there who are awakening, who are going through things, who feel that maybe they're not worthy, who feel they're probably not right, who are feeling a stirring inside and they don't know what to do, how to handle it. And sometimes, as you know, the people around you don't understand, and you can't talk about it, and you keep it inside. And I was saying to one of my other guests, 40, 50 years ago, you couldn't be talking about this because it was woo-woo.
15 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But now, I mean, it took me time before I stood up and said, I'm a spiritualist coach. Because, it's like spirituality was like, but it was always there, and I always used it. But how do you say it? And people are still feeling that. And so it is about my guests talking about their spirituality, their journey, and showing that what they went through and what they've gained and how they are now and what they're doing. So yes, I need you to talk about it so people can say, I resonate with that. Oh,
well, let me share. Let me share a story that I think is really speaks to that of, after it happened, right after it happened, after I came back to my, I had a software business, for heaven's sakes. I was making interactive movies. I was working in Seattle, and I had a company to run. I was the president of the company. And at the time I was in my late 20s, and I remember coming back and sitting everybody in my staff down, my partner and I, because he also experienced a huge spiritual awakening on the trip of his own, which caused him to start channeling spontaneously for days, which was also crazy. But at that point we were it's crazy, but it is, right? So let's just like let it be whatever it is. And honestly, that's, I guess, my first piece of advice for anybody that's going through this. It's crazy, it doesn't make sense, but it is exactly what's going on. So you have to at least allow it to happen, and it will be much easier for you if you don't struggle and fight the fact that it's happening. There's so much just bizarre stuff. Like, we sat everybody down in my office, and about 2 days later, one of my staff came to me and she said, I don't know what to do. I said, what's wrong? It was an older woman working for us as a computer programmer. She said, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I'm scared to even tell you. I said, well, what's happening? It turned out she was channeling the Pleiadians, and they had come to her in the middle of a baseball game and started talking to her. And she was sitting in the audience watching, sitting in the stands watching this baseball game. And all of a sudden the Pleiadians are talking to her and identified themselves as the Pleiadians. And she's like, get out of my head. Like, what are you doing here? But the Pleiadians, of course, explained, like, hello, we're here to help the world, and we are looking for any radio tuners that we can tune into, and you're today's radio tuner. So she's like, wow, okay. So by this time, it had been going on for 2 weeks, and she was terrified to share because she hadn't told anybody, but she kind of thought we would understand, and heck yes, we understood. We were like, yes, please, welcome to the crazy side of the room. So it's like, you just don't, when it happens, you don't know. I was at a wedding this is about 10 years ago. So it's now like years and years after this all happened. I was at a wedding, and I wanted to dance at this wedding. I just was dying to dance. And I didn't have anybody at the wedding I could dance with. So I literally walked around and tapped all the men on the shoulder and said, hi, will you dance with me? And one guy was like, I would love to, but my wife would kill me. And then other people were like, no, I'm distracted, or I can't, or whatever. Anyway, I finally go up to this, I'm going to call him young kid, definitely half my age. And I'm like tapping his shoulder like, hi, would you mind dancing with me? And he was like, sure, I will. Well, we get onto the dance floor, and in 30 seconds, we're talking about the fact that he has had a spiritual awakening and does not know what to do with himself. And I'm like, okay, there's this book list that I have for you in my head, because like, I knew in that moment I would never see him again. I gave him my card. I'm like, if you need anything, just call me. I knew I'd never see him again. I knew I'd never talk to him again. And I knew he got what he needed from our energetic encounter, and that I had been given the like impetus to dance. And that imagine asking 20 men to dance, and every one of them says no. Like, that's got to be my worst track record my entire life. But it was because I needed him to be in my sphere, so everybody else needed to say no, right? It's like spirit is always working in miracles, but sometimes you're the student, and sometimes you're the angel that student needs. And I've had so many angels come into my life and be like, here, let me help you along this next path of your, on your journey.
Yeah.
And now I discover, after, having been in this space for so long, I'm that person for so many people. So my info for everybody that is, if you're going through an awakening, so first of all, as I said before, just let it be. Don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Don't tell yourself about the dogma you've been taught, or the people that will be uncomfortable with this. This is going on between you and God, whatever your version of God is. And sometimes not your version of God, sometimes something bigger. Like, the reason I knew that my employee was actually channeling the Pleiadians is she had never heard of them. She had no context for this. And there's plenty of stories in spiritual work about, people coming out of a coma and suddenly speaking languages that they never spoke before, or being, able to be a concert pianist when they have never touched the keys or whatever. So there are ways to tap into stuff that we don't really have any context for. But when it happens to you, the first place we go to is, I have lost my mind, and it's not coming back. And the good news is you have lost your mind and it's not coming back, because the borders of your reality have softened enough to allow more in. And that more is a gift from God. It's a gift from the universe. It's a gift from our higher power, or our guardian angels, or the entities that you're channeling, or whatever. And you have to let that in, because if you don't, the door will close. You'll go back to sleep. Remember that line from The Matrix where Joe Pantoliano says, "I just want my steak to taste like steak." Like, we have those moments where we go, I really want to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But when we can come into that higher ability of taking in more than just the information that's in the third dimension, we have access to unity consciousness, which teaches us to be better people. We have access to unity consciousness, which teaches us that there are no borders. And we have access to unity consciousness that teaches us that everything is love. And then we have access to knowing that it's not just that there aren't any borders, it's there, like, Zenzi, you and I are the same. Like, all we're here for is as vehicles of awakening for people. So when we have those gifts, that's amazing. So when you can let go of that need for it to stay the same, you can allow the more in that gives you the bigger life, that gives you the bigger possibilities. And the other thing is, don't tell everybody that this has happened to you, because there are some people, 20% of your, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I said thank you. It's true. Sometimes you just have to go.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to, like, I want to install a lock on my lips. I like to tell people all the stuff that's happening in my life. But, like, I'll give you an example. I met my girlfriend, I've been with now for, I think we're in our 13th year together. I met her on my 10th Eat, Pray, Love tour to Bali. And she came along and she stole me out from my husband's, right under my husband's nose. We've been together almost 25 years, and I met her, and all of a sudden it was like I was in love with her and I wasn't in love with him anymore. It was like my second spiritual awakening. This one was around love. It was crazy. And I remember we had about an hour layover in the airport on the way home. And I'd been with her for like all of like a week, and I still hadn't left my husband at this point. He was on the tour with us, but he was like watching all of this unfold, and neither of us really knew what to do, except I knew by then, when stuff like this happens, let it unfold. Don't like make any big decisions, like just allow it to unfold. And I remember getting on the phone I FaceTimed both of my parents to tell them about my new love and to tell them that this had happened to me. And it's probably too early, probably too soon. I didn't leave my husband for almost a year. Could have eased them into it, right? But I'm like that person. I'm like living out loud in front of everybody, and I don't care. Like I want to have that experience. But when it comes to your spiritual awakenings and when it comes to the post time in that, it's a very lonely time unless you know people who are already there, because you can't really talk about it with you can't really talk about it with your circle that you already had. You'll get a new circle. The old circle, part of it will fall away. Part of it will evolve to meet you. Part of it will eventually rise above you because people have their own evolution. But it's so devastating in the middle of it if you don't keep, I'll say, your hygiene up. And what I mean by that is you need to keep a clean mind. You need to like love yourself so hard in those moments, and you need to just honor, I'm going through a process and I don't know what to do. We're so used to it. By the time you're 30 years old, you're like, I can handle that. Like, I've been through that before. And you get to something like this and you're like, oh, except for this, which I've never been through before, have no context for. And just like my head is like, the top of my head comes off every single day. So like when I met my girlfriend, I remember, my husband and I were going to stay together forever. He was my total soulmate. The end, period, the end. That was the end of my relationships. Had not dated anybody since I met him, had not like been with anybody since I met him. He was my soulmate, my world. And then when I fell in love with my girlfriend, it was like somebody took my world away. So I would wake up in the morning and I would be like, okay, what do I do now? And Spirit would be like, go brush your teeth. okay, what do I do now? Go get some breakfast. Like that was the granular level at which I needed support from my inner guidance, because everything in my world like had fallen away, even more so than in my first spiritual awakening. It was like, okay, we're just adding this in. But in the second one, it was like, and taking all this other stuff that no longer serves you away. Well, that was called my life. And so that was complicated. That's why I didn't leave for like almost a year, because it was complicated. I was trying to figure it out. How do I go from a 1 husband, 3 dog, 4-bedroom home to and move 3,000 miles across the country, right? By the way, that's the sequel to Red Goddess Rising. I'm working on that one now. But it's like your brain just doesn't know what to do when that happens. But I luckily had been leading tours by then for like 15 years. And so I had seen all these people come on my tours and say, I want this, but I don't know how to get it. Or I've gotten this and I don't want it. Or I've gotten this and I would love it, but I have no idea how to get from here to there. And so I was used to, let's pull all the spiritual tools out of the toolbox and help you get through this. So when it came time for my turn in that hot seat, I sat down and said, how can I get through this with grace? And that was what I asked for every day. You know, thank you, Spirit, for helping me get through this with grace. Thank you, Spirit, for helping me get through this in love. Because, I mean, you know, Gwyneth Paltrow and her ex invented, I guess, the term, or made the term popular, conscious uncoupling. And I wanted a conscious uncoupling in my relationship. I did not get it, but I held the space for it on my side, which was my own, you know, it's like they say in 12-step, like, what's on your side of the street? That's the only thing you can be responsible for. And so that was my choice, like, keep my side of the street clean. And whatever's going on, whatever garbage is collecting on the other side of the street is none of your business. So that was kind of like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, you went through a great big shove and awakening, a big trauma. So from that, where did your path lead you to?
Well, I had run businesses with my now ex for the entire time I'd been in business. He and I started that software company together. That was our first company. Then I went into real estate and he supported me in that. And then we started a company together leading spiritual tours. And so we did that together. And then he was running his software business and I was supporting him with that. So everything was completely intertwined. And when I left, I said, all right, we can still run our spiritual travel company together, because I'm going to be in Miami and you're going to be in LA, but we can still work together. And it was very clear within the first like 6 months that was not going to be exactly as I had hoped. This is the part where like your side of the street is clean, but the other side, not so much. So he was very, 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 very angry. Did I mention how angry he was? So there was a lot of passive aggressive behavior and a lot of like, you know, how can I be as angry as possible with you and still sound so civil? So eventually that just got so difficult that I knew that I had to exit the company. So I was asking myself, like, okay, well, what do you want to do now? What do you want your life to look like? If you could create your life, the life of your desires, what would that look like? And I sat down and started writing out, like, what are my non-negotiables? So I had to work from anywhere in the world because I was going to be traveling. I loved the coaching work that I was doing on my tours. Might anyone pay me to just coach them? And then I wanted to make a lot of money because I wanted to be independently wealthy and I didn't want to have to be concerned about, you know, grocery money anymore. That's an energetic shift when you don't have to worry about, you know, food, clothing, and shelter, and you can just allow the money to flow in. The money flows in. So that was a big, you know, non-negotiable. And that's what led to me opening my coaching practice, which is now, I think I'll have my 11th anniversary in 2 months. So in January. So I think that what opened up, oh, and then by the way, the biggest client that we had in my old travel business said, I get you in the divorce, and came over with me and said, I want you to keep running my tours, because we would white label tours for other tour leaders, as well as me leading my own tours and retreats. So in fact, my website is literally toursandretreats.com. Isn't that fun? So I started transformational tours and retreats because I knew that I would be leading my own tours, and I knew that this one client wanted me to do her tours. Well, I've gone on to do many, many tours with other clients, and then many tours of my own. My Egypt tour in February with this client is going to be my 33rd trip. And there's going to be 80 of us on the trip. Whereas my tours are, my retreats are much smaller. We usually do like no more than 20 people. And I usually do them to Egypt as well, because Egypt is really my wheelhouse. So it nourishes me at my core, because the first time I went, I got to drink from that well, but every time I go back, it's like I get to drink deeper into the well, like go further down and drink that, really rich and powerful elixir that is, to me, only in Egypt. I mean, I've been to most of the spiritual sites on the planet now, and I feel like, at least for me, Egypt resonates the most deeply. So, yeah.
Hayley, I need to ask you this question. You do these retreats and these tours, and you've been doing them for how long now?
Well, my first one was in 2005, I think. Okay. So about 20 years. Yeah.
20 years. And from the time you started to now, what differences have you seen with the amount of people who are going on these retreats, the awareness that's going on around you within the world from 20 years ago to now? Have you seen a change in the type of people that come on your retreats?
So that's such an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. But thinking back on it, I've always had seekers on my tours. So seekers are always at different levels of their own awakening, right? They're at different points in their journey. So I've had people who are like, literally, I've never traveled outside of the United States before, but I saw your trip and I just knew I needed to go. And then there's people who are like, I have been studying this stuff for 43 years, but I never did get to Egypt, and today's my day. So it just depends. Like there's a pretty broad range of people. And I feel like when you are, like, many are called, few are chosen is the phrase, but it's like the choosing is ours. I used to think that phrase meant God didn't pick everybody, and which never made any sense to me, because I'm like, God picks everybody. It's like how it works. But when you think in terms of, like, spirit knocks on the door, it's always your choice whether you want to open it or not, always. So not everybody makes that choice of, yes, I'm going to do this. But when they do, usually, not always, like, spirit can get in through the cracks. That's what happened with me. I was seeking, but I call this, in my coaching, I call this the lack gap. And to me, it's key to everything involved in transformation. The lack gap is, I believe that I have this desire for something, but in that believing of the desire for it, I also have the lack of having it right now. Mm-hmm. And that leaves a gap. And the gap in most people's cases could be as wide as the ocean, because it's like, I'm all the way over here on this side. Okay, let's say a river. I'm over here on this side of the river. Denial is not just another river in Egypt. you're over here on this side of the river. You want to be over here on this side of the river, but you see that you're not over there. You see that you're here. And in the knowing of not being there, you're not there. And therefore, you're holding yourself back from going there. So that's the lack gap, right? And I feel like when people are smart, and the smarter that they are, frankly, the more this is true, and ask me how I know, I am very smart. We get in our own way so much, so much. The people that come on my tours who are like, I know nothing, and therefore I couldn't possibly do anything right because I've never experienced this before. I'm just here to learn. Those are the people that are like, oh, that's so easy. But the people like me who are like, you know, I can quote you chapter and verse, everything you're saying, we get in our own way. Like because the two most dangerous words in the English language are, I know. And so when I get somebody who I knows on my trip, I'm always like, oh, okay, this is going to be a hard nut to crack. I'll tell you a wonderful story. I had a woman come. This is about 3 years ago, I guess. She was a good 100 pounds overweight, at least. She was all in her victimhood. Now, truth be told, she had had a horrible childhood, a difficult growing up. But she was in her like 60s and she had been beating that drum ever since. So say it again.
I'm the victim.
Very much, fully in her victimhood. By the third day, I had guests coming to me going, if it's going to be like this for the rest of the trip, like, I don't think I can be around her. And I knew to talk to her, but there like hadn't been a break, but I was like, don't worry, I got this. And so I sat her down at breakfast and I said to her, every time you talk about what happened to you, you bring the energy of the past into the present. It's like you're relighting the candle every 5 minutes. And you got to give that a space. You got to give that a break because you're not in the place that you want to be for transformation. You're back where you were when you were 6 and you're going to stay there the rest of your life. Is that what you want? She cried. She's like, no, I don't want that. I just want it to be different. And I said, I don't want you to hear one word about your past. We all know. You've been telling us like all the time. By the way, my clients call me a velvet hammer. I know when to hit really hard, but it's always going to be like covered in like the soft velvet because I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. Right. So I was really, really hardcore with her though. And then I said, you cannot be like this. I was like, I will send you home, which I think I've said maybe one other time to like on all of like, I've taken thousands of people, but I was like, I can't have this energy, this is disruptive for everybody. She says, okay, I understand. By the middle of the trip, she was blossoming. You could just see her blossoming as she allowed everything in. We went into a temple. I think we were in the side of we were in like a special room that's normally closed to tourists at the Temple of Isis at Philae, which is one of the like beautiful spaces that we get to go to privately when we do our tours. And it was so special. And, we're there at dawn and there's no one there. There's no tourists. So the transformation is easier because it's like the stones are there to wake you up. And we were sitting in this room and I sing sometimes in the temples and I was singing and toning. We all tone in the temples. And then she started spontaneously speaking light language. Do you know what that is?
I've heard about it.
Yeah. I've heard enough people speak light language that I know you're speaking the same language as this person. Like I've got a good ear for accents and stuff. And so I can tell when light language is being spoken, when it's the same language. And so I could hear that she was speaking. Some woman at the same trip started spontaneously channeling an Indian, like a Native American language. We think it was Navajo, but we don't even know because she doesn't speak the language, but there she was, fluent. And then at the same time, this woman starts speaking light language. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And she's just like, she's communicating in light language, but none of us speaks light language. So we don't know the words she's saying, but we can feel the energetic of everything that she's doing. Well, about 3 weeks ago, I got a message from her that was as long as my arm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just back from my spiritual tour to Bali, and I'm headed to Machu Picchu, and everything's better in my life, and I've, healed all of this trauma. And she had lost, if not the full 100 pounds, enough that she looked like a pretty thin woman to me. In the pictures she was sending, like, I could see she was like half the size that she was before. And that's the kind of transformation that happens when you're willing. I'm writing a book right now. It's going to be my next book, and it's called Orchestrations from Above. And the idea is that beyond control, the control that we exude over the things that we feel that we can control in our lives, beyond control is the orchestration of God, of spirit, of the universe. And it's so much more beautiful when we can let go and allow ourselves to be held by our spiritual creator. And that's the energetic shift that can happen when we are willing to get out of our own way.
Yeah. You are so right. The reason I asked you that question is because at the present time in man's evolution, so many of us are awakening. And I was saying 40, 50 years ago, you were saying even 10, 15 years ago, you can't talk about everything. And so I asked you that question to see what was happening then with the amount of people or the type of people you are then, and how has it grown? How has it changed? Because I know there is an awakening and people are awakening.
I don't see that as much with my guests on my tours as I see it in my clients for my coaching practice.
Okay.
So when I got into the business 12 years ago, I was afraid. There's no question. I was terrified. Like, I wanted to call myself a transformational coach, but I was like, I couldn't get the word transformational out of my mouth. You have to practice, you have to practice until your brain goes, oh, this is comfortable now. I understand. So I would go around saying to everybody, I'm a transformational coach. I found that if I said I was a coach, they literally asked baseball or softball. So I'm like, okay, we're not there yet. And then about, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, somebody said to my girlfriend, doesn't your girlfriend do that mindset thing? Get me some of that mindset stuff. And he was such a mainstream non-woo-woo that I was like, people are starting to hear the mindset word. So then I called myself a transformational mindset coach for a long time. And now I call myself a transformational wealth coach, because basically I help people make more money, and that's something that they can understand and hang their hats on, even though transformation is a huge part of the work. So what I've seen over the years is an evolution, because especially with women, we're all getting the call at the same time. Mm. And when the Dalai Lama said the world will be saved by the Western woman, I don't think he meant Western women in general. I think he meant actual you and actual me. Mm-hmm. And so I take that as a great responsibility. I actually want to help now. My new mission is to help 1 million women create financial freedom. And that comes from having your own money and from understanding and healing the 3,000 years of legacy that says we don't have the right to our own wealth. So my next Egypt tour, for example, is called the Nile Code Retreat, because I'm going to be installing all the wealth codes, but I'm going to be doing it while we're in Egypt, because the stones will amplify every piece of work, every exercise, everything. So it's like people are going to get that faster, because there's so much legacy damage in the spiritual world that most women, it's not just I'm not worthy, it's I'm not worthy, and it's not safe to be seen, and it's not safe to be heard. Mm-hmm. And that's the stuff that we get to heal on our trips. And that's the stuff that I heal all the time in my coaching practice. Yeah. And the reason that we need to shift from the one into the other is that men have had 3,000 years to heal the world. And look where we are.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely correct. And I want to say it's not just helping the women to get financially wealthy, but in doing that, they're gaining their freedom.
That's why I said yes, financially free. That is the key. Because for a lot of women, they don't want wealth for themselves. They want it for their community, they want it for their village, and they want it for their tribe, or they want it for a greater mission. It's
Mission.
like, how could you amplify your voice better if you had that wealth, or when you have that wealth? Yeah.
And again, I like what you just said. When women have money, it's not for me, I. Although there are a few that do that, it is generally to share, to do something, because we are nurturers. We're naturally nurturing. So it's for your village, it's for your community, because we see the bigger picture. We understand the bigger picture. And so we want to take that wealth and do more with it, because we know in the long run, in the greater picture, it's going to be lovely for everybody, not just ourselves.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, women are not going to take over the world and subjugate the men. That's not how we roll,
No,
right?
no,
Yeah.
no. Hayley, this has been a trip. Can you tell us at this present time, you've spoken about your book, but there's a book that you are in the process of writing, and you've spoken about your trips and things you're doing. What else have you not said that you'd like to share with us before we let you go?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So first of all, I did just come out with a book about like 2 months ago called The Passive Income Power Plan: 108 Ways to Make Money While You Sleep. I'm building my own passive income streams, and I see it for financial freedom for women to build their own passive income streams as well. Because the more we're tied into the world's economy, the less empowered we feel. The more we're tied into our own economy, the more empowered we can be. So
Yeah.
I want to encourage everybody. It's, $10. You are worth that investment. Go pick up your copy of the Passive Income Power Plan so that you can begin to build income streams, multiple income streams that bring in revenue that you can control, and revenue that will help bring you that financial freedom and power. So that's the first thing that I want people to know. You can get the book at Halle, Halle, wealth.com, hallewealth.com. And there's freebies there as well. So please grab those freebies. I also want to offer, I'm giving out URLs all over the place. I want to offer that on hallemoney.com, Halle money.com. There is my gift, which is the top 10 wealth secrets every woman needs to know. And these are energetic wealth secrets. It's like when I started researching in my wealth work, I was like, I don't like any of these rules. But I also realized that they were leaving out some really important things. So this is like, to me, this is the way to empower yourself energetically. It's not like, but these are not budgeting secrets, right? These are energetic wealth secrets. So, and you can get those at hallemoney.com. And then the third thing I want you to know is that I do have this tour to Egypt that is coming up in April, where we'll be doing the Nile code work. And that is so powerful. And I just, it's limited to 20 guests, and we're already starting to sign up. So I want to encourage everybody to check that out as well. You'll know, we ask a lot of questions because you'll know pretty quickly whether it's the right trip for you. So you can go to toursandretreats.com/Nile-code. And I'm sure that Zenzi is going to post all of those links in the show notes. Thank you so much. But I would love to have a chance to have you in my world if you're interested in growing your wealth and also growing your wealth education, because a lot of the work that I do now is about helping women. Spirit said to me in 2017, I got this download that I call the Goddess of Crypto, and it said, teach women how to surf so that they don't get knocked over by the coming financial tsunami. And so that was really like that. All my coaching work took a left turn and went into wealth coaching. I've coached on crypto. I've coached on AI. I've coached on wealth principles in general, because we did not learn this stuff in school. And women mostly go, oh, I was probably hiding behind the door that day. No, they did not dish it out in the first place. And so I believe that we owe it to ourselves, but to learn this stuff, we must learn it in plain English, because it's not that complicated. And a lot of the stories that we've been told, mostly by men, about economics, which, economics is the study of scarcity. Do we want to learn about how to be scarce? No, folks, we're spiritual people. We want to learn how to be abundant. So we're really we're looking in the wrong place, basically, for our wealth. And so when you shift that energetically, it allows so much flow to happen. And that's the last piece that I want to share with you. You aren't wrong. You just weren't educated right. And that's the work that I do in the world, is helping you get educated correctly about your wealth birthright. And when you get to that place, now you can go and amplify your legacy and help wake other people up. And that's what's so beautiful.
Now, that work you're doing, and how do we connect? How can people connect with you for that? Is it one of those websites that you've already spoken about?
Yeah, I think the best way is to get on my mailing list, which is hallemoney.com. And then if you're interested in the passive income power plan, then you can go to hallewealth.com. If you're interested in the trip to Egypt that's coming up in April, if you're interested in learning more about that, then toursandretreats.com/Nile-code. But in general, to just get in touch with me, to be on my mailing list, and then also to grab that really great gift of the top 10 wealth secrets every woman needs to know, that's hallemoney.com. So thank you for asking for that clarification.
Yes. Are you sure you've told us everything? I hope you haven't forgotten anything out.
I always, when I was running my podcast, which was the Goddess of Crypto podcast that I did for several years, I used to ask women at the end, what's one last thing? I always love that. I think that's so beautiful to ask that. So let me see what Spirit has to say. Just give me a second. The message is so clear. You are enough. You came to this world enough. You are walking through this world enough. That is never the question. You are enough. You are inherently enough. The question is not, what did I come here to be? We ask that question all the time, but the answer to that question is, you came here to be, and you came here to be in joy. I actually have written another book called 100 Ways to Be in Joy. I wrote that for my clients because they couldn't think of 3 ways to be in joy. So Spirit wants us to know we are here to be in joy. The question that you're asking is really, what did I come here to do? And the answer is anything that you love, as long as it teaches you to be in joy and allows you to be in joy. So that's what Spirit wants you to know. Last, it's enough. You are enough.
Oh, you're so wonderful. You're so right. Because I say to people, find out what your passion is, because your passion is what you enjoy doing. And that's what you should be doing. And everything else will flow.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. It really does. That was my one last thing. I won't say anything else other than you're so right.
So, Halle, Evelyn, is that correct?
Perfect. Thank you so
Halle,
much.
Evelyn, I said it my nice English accent. Thank you so much for what you've said. Thank you so much for those gold nuggets. Thank you so much for all that you shared. Thank you. And for all those who've been listening in, she's given you so much, and her website, and they will come again in the write-up. So you'll have them again. If you won't be able to write them down, don't worry. I know that I've got a lot of people to put out, but I'm going to put her podcast out pretty soon, so you'll get it there. So to everybody all over, wherever you are, remembering we're all connected. we've come here and we are enough, and we've come here to live in joy. So it's about looking deep within it and finding out what makes you be happy. What is your passion? Find out your passion and then let that flow and all will come. And Halle, thank you so much for today. You're in Miami, the sun. I'm in London. It's dark now. It's cold. I've got the
We
heat.
can't tell. You look like you're in a sunny background, but come on over to Miami. We'd love to have you. And thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Not at all. So to everybody, thank you for joining us today. Ellie, thank you so much. Everyone, bye for now.